the moment you step in the stadium.
Nothing emulates Patrick Mahomes more than the word Showtime.
Take advantage of the day.
What else do we need to know about Showtime Mahomes?
It came from my dad when I was young, and I'd always try to slide around and make diving catches, and so they started calling me Showtime.
The kid is an electrifying player.
Oh, how did he pull that off? Showtime.
A magician never reveals his tricks.
I mean, you know that nickname's legit when your own dad gave it to you and it sticks around for this long. The Chiefs QB on the losing end, though, of Super Bowl 55 in February. The Chiefs only scored 9 points in that game, and Tyreek Hill said they're embarrassed after that loss to the Buccaneers. Listen to this.
I've been grinding my tail off, man, ever since that loss. You know what I'm saying? Like, I take losing, like, kind of hard, you know, so, I mean, me being me, man, and I know my teammates being my teammates, Pat, Kelsey, you know, and the rest of the guys, Tyron, Chris, you know, they want to get back to that stage, you know, so I know they grinding just as hard as I am, you know, because, you know, like, I feel like we was kind of embarrassed, you know, like on national TV during the biggest game, you know, in the last game of the year. So, I mean, we definitely don't want to go down that drought again, you know, so we'll be back, you know.
We've heard a similar sentiment actually on this show from Travis Kelce, but it's hard to get back to the Super Bowl at all. It's hard to get back there 3 straight times. Hasn't happened often. Only 3 teams, you see them there in NFL history, have played in 3 consecutive Super Bowls. The 1970s Dolphins, 1990s Bills, and the Patriots from 2016 to 2018. And Mina, Kansas City has played more games than any team over the last 3 seasons. When you think about just the wear and tear on their bodies and how this whole thing would factor into the bigger picture, how long do you really think the Super Bowl window is open?
I think that the Chiefs' window stays open as long as Patrick Mahomes keeps playing like he does, and I will not pick against them. That said, it does get harder, and the reason why it's so hard for teams to consistently repeat, even when they do have star quarterbacks from year to year, is, you alluded to, Laura, health and money. It's a hard-capped league, and as teams have success and they draft well, and then have to pay those players that they drafted well, and so forth, and then suddenly you have to watch players walk away. You know, I was thinking about Seattle, a team with a excellent young quarterback in Russell Wilson and a very good young defense, and people asked, why didn't they have a dynasty? And there's a number of reasons for that. Injuries played a huge role in it, but one reason I think that's underappreciated with Seattle is how poorly they drafted for several years. So when we look to Kansas City and we ask the question, well, what is it going to take to keep them coming back and back? I do think the draft is important. They need to hit on some of those picks. It looks like they got a star in L'Jarius Sneed, the corner they got in the 4th round last year. Juan Thornhill has flashed at times. But you need players like the linebackers they take in, Nick Bolton this year, the tackle, Lucas Stang. Those players need to hit as well, because you reach a certain point where if you have a star-studded, top-heavy roster, you need cheaper players to play well too.
And listen, when you're talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, make no mistake about it, you know that they are building something special when other teams, particularly in the AFC, are trying to build things to get ready for Kansas City. You see, like the Tennessee Titans, they go trade for Julio Jones, and other teams making moves because they know at the end of the day, all roads lead to Kansas City. At some point in the playoffs, they're going to have to face Kansas City, and they're going to have to make sure that they have the right personnel to match up with the Kansas City Chiefs. And we know this offseason, we saw the Kansas City Chiefs address their one issue, the offensive line.
Yep.
Now, what are the other teams going to do to match up what the Kansas City Chiefs are going to bring to the table?
You know, and they were able to address that offensive line with money they spent in free agency. And I think this speaks to Mina's point and the way the Chiefs are trying to combat it. They've structured some of their big contracts in ways that are very helpful to them. If you look at the way Patrick Mahomes' contract is structured, it's going to allow them to continue going in there and getting more money, more cap space in the coming years. So if they have to do something like rebuild their entire offensive line in one off season, they're going to be able to afford to do it. They got a very good deal on Tyreek Hill relative to his production as well. So those are tricks that front offices can do to help, even if they are missing on some draft picks because, I mean, it's harder to draft when you're picking 31, 32 than it is when you're picking 1 or 2.
Yeah, so much of the conversation a lot of times around the window has to do with quarterbacks on rookie contracts, right? But if you can get a quarterback in the realm of Patrick Mahomes and get him to agree to a deal that will allow you to have some flexibility, that also kind of works, right? It just has to do with Patrick Mahomes being Mahomes. Time for one more thing before we go. You guys are not going to believe this. This is insane. Bucs tackle Tris more than 50 league executives, coaches, scouts, and players to help us stack up the top 10 players at 11 different positions. Let's look at the quarterback. These are how guys around the league are ranking these quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes tops the list, followed by Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady. That's a no-brainer, right? Russell Wilson, Josh Allen rounding out the top 5. Then it gets interesting. You see down there, new Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford checks in at number 6. Dak Prescott at 7th on this list. So, listen, it's July 12th or whatever day it is. I'm not sure. I think it's July 12th. So these are the things that we're doing, right? But Mina, let's try to be serious about it. Is Dak too low on this list in your mind?
I would flip him and Matthew Stafford,
Yeah.
which, it's pretty close, 6 and 7. But when you look at the 5 years since Dak's come into the NFL, he ranks 5th in QBR. Stafford's 14th. And if you don't like QBR, you can grab any stat, passer rating, yards per attempt, interception percentage, completion percentage, whatever. Dak is ahead of Stafford. Now you could say, well, Dak was in a better situation than Matt Stafford. Matt had inconsistent play calling, good skill players, inconsistent protection in Detroit. And you would be right. And I think the fact that he's going to Los Angeles, which is such a quarterback-friendly offense, is a huge part of why he jumped in the rankings, deservedly so. But Dak Prescott remains in one of, if not the best situations for a quarterback in the NFL. Like, it's not like they're switching situations. Dak still has a credible group of wide receivers, very good offensive line. So for me, I'm going to go with the younger guy who's been better lately, but I expect them both to have very good seasons.
Yeah, I would certainly put Dak ahead of Stafford as well. I think I'm trying to figure out why it didn't break down that way when you're polling executives and other people league-wide. One thing that jumped to mind, and you hear this a lot, people really do cling to their pre-draft evaluations for a very long time. And Dak Prescott was a 4th-round pick. There were a lot of people that thought he wasn't going to be a starting NFL quarterback, and I'm sure some of them still feel like, oh, he's overrated, maybe the situation has propped him up, etc. But I think the exercise was to project it forward, and I think there is a belief that out of Detroit and into L.A. with Sean McVay and the Rams, Matthew Stafford will play better than he ever has. We're all going to find that out together, but that certainly does seem to be the hope and the expectation for a lot of people around the league when it comes to Stafford.
Yeah, the reality is, either way, you've got Dak Prescott last season leading the league in passing before he ended up getting injured. All right, you see him right there with the numbers, by the way. That breaks it all down. Damian, give me someone who will be on this top 5 list next year. And if you were paying real close attention to your TV, you might have heard him give you a little hint there. Go ahead, D-Wood.
Yeah, listen, I'm going with Justin Herbert. I think Justin Herbert is going to be a superstar in this league. And I just point back to last year. You're talking about a QB that had no offseason. And just look at the circumstance as to which he started for the Los Angeles Chargers. Tyrod Taylor gets a botched injection. He gets inserted into the lineup right before game time. And all he did was ball the whole season. Got through for over 4,300 yards, 31 touchdowns, and only 10 interceptions. And this Los Angeles Chargers team, they improved upon the area which I thought was a detriment to Justin Herbert, the offensive line. So I think in year 2, with Brandon Staley as the head coach, I think Justin Herbert is just going to vault and just become a superstar in this league.
Yeah, Damian, you hit on it with the offensive line. And I would also point out, hopefully, for Los Angeles, they have better health on the other side of the ball with Derwin James hypothetically playing an entire season, which would keep Herbert from having to put the entire offense on his back. I just want to make one other point with this list. I would have Ryan Tannehill in the top 10 over Kyler Murray. I think he's been a little underrated and ignored despite how efficient he's been playing over the last couple of years in Tennessee. So that would be the other name I would look to. Otherwise, I think it's a pretty good list, but Tannehill belongs there too.
You know, that's interesting, especially adding another weapon like Julio Jones. But you wonder, too, what people would say about leaving Kyler Murray out of that top 10, back to the point of the pre-draft evaluations. All right, much more ahead on NFL Live. Tim Kirkjian joining us from the Home Run Derby, and he brought along some video of Aaron Judge playing high school football. You do not want to miss that. And also, why Timmy says baseball players are the best athletes. All right, we'll be right back.
Another one bites the dust.